The transport ship landed at the Galactic Defense Academy with a soft hiss. Wu grabbed her equipment bag and stepped onto the platform. The air smelled different here, cleaner than Earth's recycled atmosphere. She looked up at the massive training facility that stretched across the horizon. Towers made of materials she couldn't name reached toward the purple sky. This wasn't home anymore. She walked through the main entrance with 200 other new cadets. Most of them weren't human. Wu saw creatures with 6 legs, others with crystal skin that reflected light in strange patterns, and some that floated instead of walked. They all stared at her. Humans were rare here, only 3 in the entire class. The assembly hall was enormous. Wu found a spot near the back and set down her bag. A tall human man sat next to her. He had broad shoulders and kind eyes. "Yang," he said, extending his hand. "Wu," she replied, shaking it briefly. On her other side, a young woman with short hair smiled nervously. "I'm glad to see other humans here." Before Wu could respond, a loud voice echoed through the hall. The head instructor, a 4-armed creature named, began explaining the academy rules. Wu half listened. She'd heard it all before from her mother. Train hard, follow orders, survive. After the speech, they moved to the equipment room. This was where cadets would receive their weapons and gear. Wu already had her own rifle, but she needed to register it with the academy. The equipment officer, a floating jellyfish-like being, scanned her weapon and frowned. Well, Wu thought it was a frown. Hard to tell with aliens. "This configuration is unusual," the officer said through a translator device. "It works for me," Wu said simply. The officer logged it into the system and waved her through. In the armory practice room, cadets began assembling their weapons. Wu found an empty workstation and unpacked her rifle. The moment she laid out the parts, she felt eyes on her. She ignored them and started working. First, she attached the optic sight, but not centered like everyone else did. She mounted it offset to the left side. Then she adjusted the grip, positioning it forward, almost at the magazine well. Her trigger hand positioning looked backwards compared to standard training. "What is she doing?" someone whispered in Galactic Common. Wu didn't look up. She continued assembling the rifle exactly as she'd been taught, exactly as her mother had shown her 1,000 times. A shadow fell across her workstation. Wu glanced up to see a massive insect-like creature standing there. Its compound eyes gleamed with amusement. This was Ash, she'd learn later. He was from the species, known for their military excellence. "Is this your first time holding a weapon, human?" Ash asked. His voice clicked and buzzed even through the translator. "No," Wu said. "Then why is it assembled like a child's toy?" Other cadets gathered around, drawn by the confrontation. Wu saw Yang and watching from across the room, concern on their faces. "The optic is on wrong," a crystalline being said, pointing at Wu's setup. "The grip placement violates 3 safety protocols," another added. Ash leaned closer. "Perhaps humans are not ready for galactic military standards. You should go back to your primitive planet and practice more." Laughter rippled through the group. Wu's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. She finished assembling her rifle, checked the action, and set it down gently. "I'm done," she said quietly. "Done making a mess, you mean?" Ash said, more laughter. From the back of the room, a voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Return to your stations." Everyone turned. A human man stood there, older than the cadets, with gray streaks in his black hair. He wore an instructor's uniform with no visible rank insignia. His face was hard, weathered like old leather. Scars ran down his left cheek. The cadets dispersed quickly. Ash lingered for a moment, then clicked his mandibles in dismissal and walked away. The instructor approached Wu's station. He looked at her rifle without expression. His eyes traced the offset optic, the forward grip, the unusual trigger setup. For a long moment he said nothing. "Name?" he finally asked. "Cadet Wu, sir." I'm Instructor. He picked up her rifle, testing its weight. Where did you learn this configuration? Home, sir. That's not an answer. Wu met his eyes. Earth, Korean sector, my family. Set the rifle down carefully. Your family military. Yes, sir. He nodded once, his expression unreadable. Carry on, cadet. He walked away without another word, but Wu saw him glance back once before leaving the room. That night in the barracks, sat on the bunk across from Wu. Why didn't you defend yourself when they were laughing at you? No point, Wu said, cleaning her rifle. They think you don't know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. Yang leaned against the doorframe. That setup, I've seen something like it before. My uncle was in the military, special operations. He had a rifle configured weird like that. Wu didn't respond. She continued cleaning, methodical and precise. You don't talk much, do you? Said. Not when there's nothing to say. Yang smiled slightly. Fair enough. But just so you know, not all humans here think you're confused. Some of us recognize experience when we see it. Wu paused her cleaning and looked at him. Thanks. That night she lay awake in her bunk, listening to the sounds of 200 different species sleeping. Some snored, some hummed, some made no sound at all. Above her, through the transparent ceiling panel, she could see stars she'd never seen from Earth. She thought about her mother's last words before she left for the academy. Don't let them make you forget who you are. Wu closed her eyes. Tomorrow would bring more stares, more mockery, more questions, but she'd been trained for worse than judgment. Much worse. In his private office, Instructor reviewed the day's cadet files on his. He stopped at Wu's profile. The official record was sparse. Name, age, planet of origin, basic test scores. Nothing about her family background, nothing about her training. But knew how to read between the lines. That rifle configuration wasn't random. It wasn't amateur confusion. It was doctrine from a specific school of combat, one that most people in the galaxy had never heard of. He closed the file and stared out his window at the darkened training grounds. Rangers, he whispered to the empty room. The word hung in the air like a ghost. The third day at the academy began before dawn. Wu was already awake when the wake-up alarm sounded. She'd been doing push-ups in the corridor, her breath steady and controlled. Other cadets stumbled out of their bunks, groaning and complaining. Wu finished her set and headed to the showers. Breakfast was a chaotic affair in the massive dining hall. Different species required different foods. The air smelled like a mixture of things Wu couldn't identify and didn't want to. She grabbed a protein pack designed for humans and ate quickly. Ash sat with a group of cadets at a nearby table. They were loud, clicking and buzzing with excitement. Wu heard them placing bets. 3 days, one said. I give the confused human 3 days before she washes out. Too generous, Ash replied. Today's test will break her. Wu chewed her food and ignored them. Yang and joined her table. Ignore them, said. They're just trying to get in your head. They're not in my head, Wu said. I don't think about them at all. Yang grinned. Cold, I like it. After breakfast, the cadets assembled at the proving grounds. This was a massive training facility that could simulate any environment. Today it was configured for zero-gravity combat with shifting cover. Instructor floated at the front of the formation, his 4 arms gesturing as he explained the exercise. This is your first live-fire test, he said. You will enter the simulation zone in groups of 10. Targets will appear randomly. Your score is based on accuracy, speed, and tactical movement. Standard galactic doctrine applies. Those who score below 40% will receive remedial training. He paused, his large eyes scanning the cadets. Those who score below 20% will be reviewed for dismissal. A nervous murmur ran through the formation. Wu was assigned to Group 7. She entered the airlock with 9 other cadets, including 2 crystalline and a massive reptilian. They looked at her rifle setup and exchanged glances. One of them made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. The airlock opened into darkness. Wu felt gravity disappear. Her stomach lurched for a moment, then settled. Zero-G wasn't new to her. She'd trained in it since she was 14. "Begin," a voice announced. Lights flashed. The first target appeared 50 meters away, a glowing red circle against the black wall. The fired immediately, his plasma rifle making a sharp crack. He missed. Wu pushed off gently from the wall, rifle raised. Her offset optic allowed her to keep her head level while tracking the target. She squeezed the trigger. The target turned green. More targets appeared. The other cadets scrambled, pushing off walls too hard, spinning out of control. In Zero-G, every movement had to be calculated. Too much force and you'd tumble helplessly. Wu moved like she was swimming through air. Her grip on the rifle allowed for small adjustments without disrupting her trajectory. She fired, adjusted, fired again. Green lights marked her successful hits. But she wasn't dominating. The cadets had natural advantages in Zero-G, their crystalline bodies able to shift internal mass for balance. They scored well. They adapted quickly, using his tail for stabilization. When the exercise ended, Wu had scored 58%, middle of the pack, adequate but not impressive. In the debriefing room, the scores appeared on a large screen. Ash had scored 82%, second in the entire class. He looked at Wu's score and clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. 58, he announced loudly, barely passing. Perhaps the human's strange rifle is not so special after all. Several cadets laughed. Wu stood quietly, her face expressionless. But at the back of the room, Instructor was watching the recorded footage of her run. He played it again, and again. His eyes narrowed. The other instructors gathered around him. "What are you looking for?" Instructor asked. "Watch her transitions," said, pointing at the screen. In the video, Wu moved from target to target. The movements looked awkward at first glance, but slowed the footage down. "There," he said. "See how she angles her body before pushing off. She's not using standard Zero-G doctrine." "That's why she scored average," said dismissively. "Human stubbornness. She should adapt to proper technique." "No," said quietly. "She's using a different technique entirely. Look at her rifle positions." In the slowed footage, it became clear. When Wu pushed off from walls, her rifle was already oriented toward the next target zone before she even started moving. Her offset optic let her scan while her body rotated. Her forward grip gave her leverage for micro-adjustments that standard grips couldn't achieve. "She's not adapting to the test," said. "She's applying a different doctrine to it." "What doctrine?" asked. Didn't answer, he just kept watching the screen. That evening, the cadets had free time. Most went to the recreation area. Wu went to the private practice range. She was alone in the dim shooting bay, running drills. Move, shoot, transition, over and over. The targets were stationary, but she wasn't practicing for stationary targets. "Your form is wrong." Wu turned. Ash stood at the entrance to the bay, his compound eyes reflecting the range lights. "Is it?" Wu said. "By every galactic standard, yes." He walked closer. "I don't understand you, human. You clearly have some training, but you refuse to learn proper technique. Why?" "This is proper technique," Wu said. "For what?" Scoring 58%. Ash's translator made his tone sound almost concerned rather than mocking. "I don't enjoy watching cadets fail. If you would just listen to instruction." "I listen to instruction," Wu interrupted. "I'm just not following yours." Ash clicked his mandibles in frustration. "You're either arrogant or stupid." "Maybe both," Wu said, turning back to the range. Ash stood there for a moment longer, then left without another word. Wu continued her drills. Move, shoot, transition. The motion was burned into her muscles from years of repetition. Her mother's voice echoed in her memory. "Don't think, React. Thinking gets you killed. In the instructor's observation room, watched Wu practice through the security feed. He'd been watching for 20 minutes. Entered the room and saw what was looking at. The human girl again. Why do you care about an average cadet? She's not average, said. Her scores say otherwise. Scores don't tell the whole story. Zoomed in on Wu's movements. Watch her pattern. She's not practicing for the tests we're giving her. Then what is she practicing for? Was quiet for a long moment. Close quarters combat. Extreme close quarters. The kind where targets appear at arm's length with no warning. That's not what we teach here, said. Galactic warfare is about formation tactics, coordinated fire and battlefield control. I know, said. That's why she seems confused to everyone. She's trained for a completely different type of war. What type? Finally looked away from the screen. The kind where there's no battlefield, only corridors, corners, and death. Stared at him. Where would a human learn such things? That's what I'm trying to figure out, said. That night Wu lay in her bunk and stared at the ceiling. Around her, other cadets slept. Tomorrow would bring more tests, more mockery, more people telling her she was doing everything wrong. But she knew something they didn't, something her mother had taught her in the cold training halls of Earth. The galaxy had spent centuries perfecting warfare in open space with long sight lines and coordinated fleets. They'd forgotten how to fight when there was nowhere to run, when every corner might hide an enemy, when the battlefield was 3 meters wide and death came fast. Humans remembered, because humans had no choice but to learn. Wu closed her eyes and slept the dreamless sleep of someone who'd made peace with being misunderstood. Week 2 began with a surprise announcement. All cadets were to report to the Urban Warfare Simulation Center immediately after breakfast. No preparation time, no briefing. Wu grabbed her rifle and followed the stream of confused cadets through the academy halls. Beside her, Yang looked nervous. I heard the urban sim is brutal, he said. Last year, half the class failed on first attempt. Jogged up beside them. My cousin went through this academy 3 years ago. She said the urban scenario is designed to make you panic. It's not about winning. It's about how you handle fear. Wu said nothing. She checked her rifle's action for the 3rd time that morning. The simulation center was a massive warehouse filled with prefabricated structures. It looked like a small colony station, complete with corridors, storage bays, and living quarters. Very realistic. Very confined. Instructor addressed the assembled cadets from a raised platform. Today you face the ambush scenario, he announced. This is a routine patrol exercise. You will enter in groups of 20, conduct a standard security sweep and report back. Estimated time, 15 minutes. Questions. Ash raised a claw. What is the passing criteria? Survival, said simply, and maintaining tactical cohesion. This simulation has a 95% casualty rate. We're not expecting you to win. We're evaluating how you think under extreme stress. A nervous murmur ran through the cadets. Group 1, enter the simulation, commanded. Wu was in Group 3. She watched on the monitor screens as the first group entered the mock station. They moved in a standard formation, weapons ready, communicating through hand signals. Professional, prepared. Then the ambush hit. Combat drones dropped from ceiling panels. They came from air vents, storage lockers behind false walls. Red training lasers lit up the corridors. The first group scattered immediately. Some cadets ran, some froze, some returned fire wildly. Simulated casualties piled up. Within 3 minutes, the entire first group was dead. The exercise reset. Group 2 lasted 4 minutes. Group 3 prepare to enter, announced. Wu's group assembled at the entrance. Ash was in this group, so was a confident named and a massive armored called. Standard defensive formation, Ash said, taking command. Watch your sectors, move slow and careful. The others nodded. Wu checked her rifle one more time and loosened her grip slightly. They entered the simulation. The mock colony station was quiet, too quiet. Wu's eyes tracked every shadow, every corner, every vent cover. Her breathing slowed. They moved down the main corridor, 10 meters, 20, 30. Then the ambush exploded. Drones burst from the walls, the ceiling, the floor panels. Red lasers filled the air like deadly rain. The group scattered exactly like the previous two groups. Ash shouted orders, trying to establish a defensive perimeter. Cadets dove for cover behind crates and doorways. Return fire filled the corridor with light and sound. Wu didn't dive for cover. She moved forward. Her body dropped into a low stance, rifle coming up in one smooth motion. The offset optics suddenly made perfect sense. She could see threats in her peripheral vision while keeping the weapon pointed forward. No wasted movement. A drone appeared from a side corridor 3 meters away. Wu's rifle barked once. The drone sparked and fell. She didn't slow down. Another drone dropped from above. She transitioned the rifle up without changing her stride, fired, kept moving. The forward grip gave her leverage to control the weapon with one hand while her other hand grabbed a doorframe, swinging her momentum around a corner. 2 drones in the next corridor. She engaged both while moving through the kill zone, not away from it. Her muscle memory took over completely. This wasn't academy training. This was something else, something older, something brutal. Behind her, Ash watched in shock. The human girl wasn't following any doctrine he recognized. She wasn't seeking cover. She wasn't calling for support. She was hunting. Wu cleared the side corridor and kept going. Her unusual rifle setup allowed weapon transitions in the tight spaces that standard configurations couldn't match. When she rounded corners, the offset optic let her peek without exposing her whole body. She moved through the station like water flowing downhill, taking the path of least resistance but never stopping. Drones appeared. She shot them. New threats emerged. She adapted. In the control room, every instructor stopped what they were doing to watch the monitors. "What is she doing?" demanded. Leaned forward, his eyes wide. "Ranger doctrine," he whispered. "What?" "She's not defending. She's disrupting, making herself a moving target they can't predict." On screen, Wu entered the central hub of the mock station. This was where the ambush was designed to be most intense. Drones converged from all directions. She didn't stop moving. Her body flowed between threats like she was dancing. The rifle came up, fired, transitioned to the next target without pause. When a drone got too close, she used the weapon like a club, the sturdy construction holding up to the impact, then immediately back to firing. The other cadets in her group were pinned down in the corridors, following standard doctrine: hold position, return fire, wait for support. Wu was winning by refusing to let the ambush pin her down. 8 minutes into the simulation, she'd cleared the central hub. 9 minutes, the eastern corridors. At 10 minutes, she circled back and started eliminating drones that were keeping her group pinned. Ash saw her coming from behind the enemy position. The human girl appeared from a ceiling access panel that no one else would have thought to use. She dropped down, took out 3 drones in rapid succession, and created an opening. "Move up," Ash shouted to the group. "Advance while she has them confused." The cadets pushed forward. With Wu disrupting the drone patterns, the group could actually fight back effectively. At 12 minutes, half the drones were eliminated. At 14 minutes, the simulation was in chaos. The drones were designed to overwhelm defenders, not to handle an aggressive solo operative destroying their coordination. At 16 minutes and 34 seconds, the last drone fell. Silence filled the simulation center. Wu stood in the middle of the central hub, breathing hard but steady. Her rifle was still raised, still ready. Slowly, she lowered it and checked the action. Satisfied it wasn't damaged, she slung it over her shoulder. The rest of her group emerged from the corridors, staring at her in disbelief. Ash approached slowly. His mandibles clicked softly, a sign of respect in culture. "What," he said carefully, "was that?" Wu looked at him. What was what? "That fighting style, that movement, that everything." "Combat," Wu said simply. "No academy teaches combat like that," the said, her crystalline voice full of awe. "Then they should," Wu replied. In the control room, was reviewing the timer with shaking hands. 8 minutes 34 seconds, he said. "That's impossible. No cadet has ever completed this simulation in under an hour." Instructor stood and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" called after him. Paused at the doorway and looked back, to have a conversation with that cadet. "About what?" "About where a young human girl learned to fight like a ranger." His forearms froze. "A what?" But was already gone. The simulation area emptied as Wu's group filed out. Other cadets stared at them, especially at Wu. Word was already spreading. The human with the weird rifle had just shattered an academy record. Ash walked beside Wu as they headed back to the barracks. "I owe you an apology," he said. "No, you don't," Wu replied. "I mocked your rifle setup. I called you confused." "You did, but you were wrong. That's not the same as needing to apologize." Ash made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "You are very strange, human." "So I've heard." They walked in silence for a moment. Then Ash spoke again, his voice quieter. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Wu didn't answer immediately. Finally, she said, "From people who had no choice but to learn." "What does that mean?" "It means the galaxy is big and safe for most species, but for some of us, it's small and dangerous. We learn to fight in places where there's nowhere to run." Ash wanted to ask more, but something in Wu's tone made him stop. This wasn't a happy story. This was survival. That evening, Instructor found Wu in the practice range again. She was running the same drills as always. Move, shoot, transition. "Cadet Wu," he said. She stopped and turned, coming to attention. "Sir." At ease, stepped into the range. "We need to talk about today's performance." "Was there a problem, sir?" "Yes and no," looked at her rifle. "Only rangers train like that." Wu's expression didn't change, but saw her fingers tighten on the rifle grip. "I don't know what you mean, sir." "Yes, you do," stepped closer. "I've seen that doctrine before, a long time ago, in places the academy doesn't teach about." They stared at each other in silence. Finally Wu spoke. "My family served." "I know," said softly. "The question is, why are you here?" "To learn." "You already know how to fight." "I know one way to fight," Wu corrected. "I need to learn the others." Nodded slowly, and the rifle set up. "It's what I was taught." "By rangers." "Yes, sir." Was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised them both. "Good, don't change it." The morning after the simulation, Wu woke to find herself famous. As she walked through the academy halls, cadets stopped and stared. Some nodded respectfully. Others whispered to their friends. A few brave ones approached to ask questions. "How did you move so fast?" "What style was that?" "Can you teach me?" Wu gave short, polite answers and kept walking. She didn't want attention. She wanted to train. But attention found her anyway. At breakfast, Instructor's voice echoed through the dining hall speakers. "Cadet Wu, report to conference room 7 immediately." The hall went quiet. Hundreds of eyes turned to stare at her. Wu set down her half-eaten protein pack and stood, yang, and looked worried. "It'll be fine," Wu said, though she wasn't sure she believed it. Conference room 7 was in the administration wing. Wu had never been there before. She knocked on the door. "Enter," a voice called. Inside, she found Instructor, and 3 other senior Academy officials she didn't recognize. They sat around a large table with her file displayed on the wall screen. "Sit," said, gesturing to an empty chair. Wu sat back straight, hands folded in her lap. Activated the wall screen. Video from yesterday's simulation began playing. Wu watched herself move through the mock station, clearing rooms and eliminating drones. "Explain this," said. "Sir, I responded to the ambush according to my training." "That's not Academy training." "No, sir, it's not." One of the other officials, a tall reptilian being, leaned forward. "Your file says you come from Earth's Korean sector. Standard civilian background. No military family listed." "That's correct, sir," Wu said carefully. "Then where did you learn combat techniques that match classified Terran military doctrine?" The room went very quiet. Wu met the official's eyes. "I don't know what you mean, sir." Instructor spoke for the first time. "Stop lying, cadet." Wu's jaw tightened. "Your file is incomplete," continued. "Deliberately incomplete. Someone scrubbed it before you arrived here." Looked shocked. "That's impossible, Academy files are." "Scrubbed," repeated, "by someone with very high clearance." He looked at Wu. "Who was your mother?" Wu stared at the table. "Her name was Bora." Full name and service record. Corporal Bora, Terran Rangers, Instructor Cadre, killed in action 4 months ago. Station defense. The room erupted in whispers. 4 arms gestured wildly. "Rangers? There are no Rangers. That unit was disbanded 30 years ago." "Officially disbanded," said quietly. "In reality, they went dark, off the books. The Terran government denies they exist." "Why would they do that?" the reptilian official demanded. "Because Rangers don't follow galactic warfare conventions," said. "They fight in ways other species consider excessive, brutal, necessary only in the worst situations." He stood and approached the wall screen, pausing the video on an image of Wu mid-movement. "Look at her stance. Low, aggressive. She's not trying to avoid being shot. She's making herself a harder target while closing distance. Standard doctrine says seek cover and establish a perimeter. Ranger doctrine says become the threat." Turn to Wu. "Your mother taught you." It wasn't a question. Wu nodded. "Since when?" "Since I was 7. "How many years of training?" 11 years, every day." Made a sound of disbelief. "You've been training for combat since childhood." "Yes, sir." That's child endangerment." "No, sir," Wu said firmly. "That's survival training. My mother knew what was coming." "What was coming?" the reptilian official asked. Wu's hands clenched in her lap. Station was attacked by pirates, 1,700 civilians, only 1 military unit on station, 43 Rangers. She paused, her voice dropping. "They held for 6 days until the fleet arrived. All 43 died, including my mother, but they saved 1,500 civilians. They did it by fighting in corridors and ventilation shafts and cargo bays where conventional tactics don't work." The room was silent. "Your father?" asked gently. "Died when I was 12. Same thing, different station." Nodded slowly. "So your mother trained you because she knew you'd be alone, and you came here because—" "Because the instructors I learned from are all dead," Wu said. "I'm here to make sure their doctrine doesn't die with them." His translator struggled to convey his emotion. "You're 18 years old. You've lost both parents to war, and you want to teach their combat methods to the galaxy." "Someone has to," Wu said simply. The reptilian official pulled up more data on his screen. "According to classified files I just accessed, the Terran Rangers were formed during the early colony expansion, when humans first started living in asteroid stations and converted freighters. Pirates and raiders attacked constantly. Standard military units couldn't fight effectively in those environments," added. Space battles are about formations and coordinated fire, but inside a station with 3-meter corridors and limited visibility, different war entirely. So humans developed Ranger doctrine, the official continued. Small unit tactics, extreme close quarters combat, aggressive defense. They became so effective that pirates avoided human stations entirely. Then why disband them? Asked. Political pressure, said. Other species complained that Ranger tactics were too violent, too brutal. The Galactic Council suggested they violated the warfare conventions. How can self-defense violate conventions? Asked. Everyone turned. Wu hadn't noticed her friend slip into the room, Yang, and stood near the door. Cadet, you were not invited to, began. With respect, sir, Yang interrupted. If we're discussing whether human combat doctrine is valid, shouldn't more humans be part of that discussion? Smiled slightly, he has a point. The reptilian official sighed. Very well. To answer your question, Cadet, the issue wasn't self-defense. It was methodology. Rangers don't take prisoners in combat. They don't negotiate. They eliminate threats with extreme prejudice. Because in a station under attack, there's no time for anything else, Wu said. Every second matters. Every corridor breached means more civilians die. But the optics, the official said. The Galactic Council sees videos of Rangers in action and they see butchery. They don't understand the context. So Earth abandoned the Rangers, voice was sharp, threw them away to please the Council. Officially, yes, said. Unofficially, they kept a small cadre active, black operations, deniable, for situations where conventional forces wouldn't work. He looked at Wu. Your parents were part of that cadre, the best of the best. When they died at station, they proved that Rangers were still necessary, but the Galactic Council didn't see it that way. They saw a failed defense, excessive casualties, proof that human methods were outdated. 1,700 people lived, Wu said, her voice hard, because 43 Rangers held the line. I know, said softly, I was there. Everyone stared at him. I was a Ranger, continued, 20-year veteran. I survived station because your mother ordered me to fall back with the civilians. She knew the command center would be overrun. She saved my life. Wu's eyes widened. You knew her. I served under her for 6 years. His face showed rare emotion. She was the finest soldier I ever met, and the best instructor in the Rangers. Tears threatened at the corners of Wu's eyes, but she blinked them back. Ash's voice came from the doorway. So that's why she fights like that. She's not confused. She's carrying on a tradition. More cadets had gathered outside the conference room. Word had spread that something important was happening. Looked overwhelmed. I don't know what to do with this information. I do, said. He turned to Wu. You said you came here to preserve Ranger doctrine, to teach it. Yes, sir. Then teach it officially. What? And the official said together. The galaxy needs to learn this, said firmly. Not every species faces the threats humans faced, but some do. Pirates still attack stations. Raiders still hit remote colonies. And when that happens, conventional tactics fail. He gestured to the video still frozen on the wall. What Wu did yesterday should be impossible, but she did it because she was trained for a different kind of warfare. Imagine if we could combine Ranger close quarters doctrine with galactic strategic principles. Imagine units that could fight anywhere, in any environment. The reptilian official considered this. The council would never approve. Then don't tell the council, said. Make it an elective course. Advanced urban combat, small unit tactics. Let cadets choose to learn it. His translator crackled with his thoughtful hum. It would need to be taught by someone qualified. I can teach it, Wu said quietly. You're still a cadet. I've been training since I was 7. I know the doctrine better than anyone alive except Instructor. Nodded, she's right, most Rangers are dead. The knowledge is dying. If we don't preserve it now, it's gone forever. Ash stepped fully into the room. I want to learn. Other cadets echoed him. Me too. I want to train with her. Teach us. Looked at the gathering crowd, then at Wu, then at. This is highly irregular. So was surviving an impossible simulation, said. Sometimes irregular is exactly what we need. After a long moment, nodded. Very well. Cadet Wu, you will assist Instructor in developing a new elective course, Advanced Close Quarters Combat, based on Ranger Doctrine. Wu stood and saluted. Yes, sir. As the meeting broke up, pulled Wu aside. Your mother would be proud, he said quietly. Did you really know her? Every day for 6 years. She talked about you constantly, showed me pictures, made me promise that if anything happened to her, I'd find you. Why didn't you contact me before? I tried. Your file was scrubbed. Someone wanted you hidden. I only found you when you showed up here and I recognized your fighting style. Wu nodded slowly. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for honoring her memory, smiled. Now let's teach these cadets how Rangers fight. The final exam arrived faster than anyone expected. 48 hours, one simulation, pass or fail. Wu stood with the other cadets in the pre-dawn darkness outside the Academy's largest training facility. The gauntlet. Every cadet knew about it. 30% washed out during this test. Some left the Academy entirely. Others repeated the entire year of training. Instructor addressed the assembly with his 4 arms spread wide. The gauntlet is simple, he announced. You will defend a civilian station against overwhelming enemy forces. The simulation lasts 48 hours. You must hold until extraction arrives. You may form teams of any size. You may use any tactics you choose. There is only one rule: the civilians must survive. He paused, looking across the nervous faces. This is not a training exercise. This is as close to real combat as we can create. Your decisions will have consequences. Choose wisely. The cadets began forming teams immediately. Species grouped together naturally. The formed a squad. The clustered in their crystalline groups. The organized by size and combat specialty. Wu stood alone, checking her rifle. Wu! She looked up. Ash approached with Yang and behind him. We want to team up, Ash said. All of us? Wu asked. If you'll have us. Wu looked at each of them. A warrior. 2 human cadets who'd barely spoken to her 2 months ago. Not an obvious team. Why? She asked. Ash clicked his mandibles in what Wu now recognized as a smile. Because I've seen you fight. I want to learn from you. And we're tired of being mediocre humans, Yang added with a grin. You make us look bad. Nodded. We need to train with the best. That's you. Wu considered this. Then she extended her hand. Ash gripped it with his claw. All right, Wu said, but we do it my way. Your way got us through the ambush simulation, Ash said. I trust your way. The teams entered the simulation facility in groups. Wu's team was assigned to defend Station Theta, a mid-sized civilian outpost. The simulation appeared on their tactical displays. 3,000 civilians, limited defensive weapons, enemy forces approaching from multiple vectors. They gathered in the station's command center. Ash immediately began analyzing defensive positions. We should fortify the main corridors, he said. Establish firing lanes. Set up overlapping fields of fire. Standard defensive doctrine. No, Wu said. Everyone looked at her. Standard defense won't work, she continued. Look at the numbers. We're 4 cadets against hundreds of simulated enemies. If we sit in defensive positions, they'll surround us and pick us apart. Then what do you suggest? Ash asked. Offensive defense. That's a contradiction. No, Wu said, pulling up a station schematic. It's Ranger doctrine. We don't wait for them to attack. We hunt them before they can organize. Yang studied the map. You want to go after them while they outnumber us. I want to disrupt them, keep them confused, make them react to us instead of executing their plan. Frowned. That violates everything the Academy teaches. The Academy teaches you to fight battles in open space with fleets and formations, Wu said. This isn't that. This is station defense, close quarters, limited space. Here, speed and aggression matter more than numbers. Ash was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Explain your plan." Wu outlined it quickly. The team would split responsibilities. Ash, Yang, and would handle traditional defense, protecting civilians and holding critical areas. Wu would conduct solo disruption runs, hitting enemy formations before they could mass for attacks. That's insane, said. You'll be alone out there. I work better alone, Wu replied. You'll get yourself killed. Maybe, but I'll take a lot of them with me first. They argued for 10 minutes. Finally, Ash settled it. We'll try it your way, he said. But you stay in communication. If you get in trouble, we extract you. Deal. The simulation began. The first wave of enemy forces entered the station through the cargo bay airlock. Wu was already waiting. She'd positioned herself in the ventilation system above the bay. When the enemies filed in, she dropped down behind them and opened fire. Her rifle barked in short, controlled bursts. 4 enemies down before they even knew she was there. The rest turned to engage, but Wu was already moving. She used the narrow corridors to her advantage, making it impossible for multiple enemies to shoot at her simultaneously. Her offset optic let her track targets while keeping her body behind cover. Contact in cargo bay, she reported over comms. 12 hostiles. I've eliminated 4. Fall back to defensive positions, Ash urged. Negative, I'm disrupting their advance. She continued moving through the station like a ghost. The enemies tried to corner her, but she knew the layout better. Every vent shaft, every maintenance corridor, every emergency hatch. This was the environment Rangers trained for. Meanwhile, Ash, Yang, and held the command center and civilian shelter areas. They used standard defensive tactics, creating strong points that enemies couldn't easily breach. The combination worked. Wu prevented the enemy from organizing large-scale assaults. Her solo runs forced them to split their forces to hunt her. This made the defensive positions easier to hold. Hour 6, Wu had conducted 9 disruption runs. Enemy casualties were mounting. Hour 12, the enemy adapted, sending fast-moving scout units to track her. Hour 18, Wu was exhausted but still moving. She'd learned to sleep in 5-minute intervals between runs. Hour 24, halfway through the simulation. In the observation room, instructors watched in amazement. No cadet had ever maintained this level of aggression for so long. She's going to burn out, predicted. No one can sustain that pace. Shook his head. Rangers train for 72-hour operations without sleep. She can handle 48. On screen, Wu executed another perfect ambush. She'd lured a squad of enemies into a maintenance corridor, then triggered an emergency bulkhead, trapping them. She eliminated the entire squad in 30 seconds. That shouldn't be possible, an instructor muttered. It's not possible with standard training, agreed, but she's not standard. Hour 30, Wu's rifle finally malfunctioned. The barrel was overheated from constant use. The action jammed. Weapon down, she reported, switching to backup. She pulled out her backup weapon, not a modern plasma rifle, an old Earth kinetic rifle, the kind that fired actual bullets using chemical propellant, ancient technology, completely manual. Is that a gunpowder weapon? Ash asked over comms. Yes. Those haven't been used in combat for 100 years. Exactly. No electronic signature. The enemy sensors won't detect it. She was right. The old rifle made her invisible to the enemy's tracking systems. She became even more dangerous. Hour 36. The enemy launched a massive assault on the command center, everything they had left. Ash called for Wu. "We need support. They're hitting us with everything." "On my way." Wu sprinted through the station. She'd been awake for 36 hours, running combat operations with almost no rest. Her muscles burned, her vision blurred, but her training held. She reached the command center from an unexpected angle, coming through the ceiling access. The enemy forces were focused on the main entrance where Ash's team was pinned down. Wu dropped into the middle of the enemy formation. The old kinetic rifle roared. In close quarters, the ancient weapon was devastating. No electronic firing delay, no plasma buildup time, just point and shoot, mechanical, reliable, deadly. She cleared a path through the enemy forces, allowing Ash to rally his team and push forward. Together, they broke the assault. Hour 40. The enemy was in full retreat. Wu's disruption runs had destroyed their command structure. They couldn't coordinate anymore. Hour 48. Extraction arrived. The simulation ended. Wu collapsed against a wall, her ancient rifle still clutched in her hands. She'd been in continuous combat for 48 hours. Her body was done. Ash, Yang, and gathered around her. They looked exhausted but elated. "We did it," said, disbelief in her voice. "We actually did it." "You did it," Ash corrected, looking at Wu. "We just held positions. You won the battle." Wu shook her head weakly. "No, we won together. Your defense held. That gave me room to operate." The final scores appeared on the command center display. Their team had achieved the highest score in 15 years. 0 civilian casualties, minimal defensive casualties, complete mission success. In the observation room, turn 2. "I owe you an apology," said. "I thought her methods were primitive, reckless. I was wrong." "The galaxy has forgotten that humans didn't have advantages," said quietly. "We didn't have superior technology or natural weapons or crystalline armor. We had to learn to fight smart, to fight dirty when necessary, to never give up." "Rangers," said with new understanding. Rangers agreed. At the graduation ceremony 3 weeks later, Wu stood before the entire academy. 200 cadets who'd started the year, 173 who'd made it through. Ash received high honors, Yang and graduated with distinction. All three credited Wu in their speeches. When Wu's name was called, she stepped forward to receive her certification, but had something else in his 4 hands. "Cadet Wu," he announced to the assembly, "you have demonstrated exceptional tactical innovation and combat excellence. More importantly, you have preserved a crucial piece of human military heritage." He held up a "I am pleased to offer you a position as Assistant Combat Instructor, specializing in close quarters combat. You will teach a new course, Asymmetric Warfare Doctrine." The crowd applauded. Wu accepted with a formal bow. 3 months later, Wu stood before her first class. 300 cadets from 40 different species packed the lecture hall. In the front row sat Ash, Yang, and on the display behind her, an image of her rifle setup appeared. The offset optic, the forward grip, the unconventional stance. "My name is Instructor Wu," she began. "I'm going to teach you how humans learned to fight when we had no advantages, no superior technology, and no choice but to win." She paused, looking across the eager faces. "I'm going to teach you what my mother taught me, what she learned from instructors who are now gone. This is Ranger Doctrine. This is how humans survive when survival should be impossible." She picked up her rifle and held it high. "This weapon looks wrong to you. The setup violates standard procedures. It seems confused, primitive, amateur." She lowered the rifle and smiled slightly. "That's exactly what everyone said 3 months ago, right before I showed them why it works." The cadets leaned forward, captivated. "Welcome to Ranger School," Wu said. "Let's begin." In the back of the hall, Instructor watched with pride. Beside him made a thoughtful sound. "Do you think this will work?" asked, "teaching Ranger doctrine to the galaxy." "I think," said slowly, "that the galaxy is about to learn what humanity learned long ago. When you have no advantages, you don't give up. You adapt. You innovate. You fight smarter." On the stage, Wu was demonstrating her rifle transitions. The movements that had seemed so awkward were now clearly purposeful, efficient, deadly. The cadets practiced along with her, their movements clumsy at first, but they were learning. "She's carrying on her mother's legacy," said. "Bora would be proud." "All the Rangers would be proud," agreed. "Their doctrine won't die, she's making sure of that." As the lesson continued, Wu felt something she hadn't felt since her mother died. Purpose, connection, hope. The Rangers were gone, but their knowledge lived on. In her, in these cadets, in the galaxy that had once dismissed human warfare as primitive. They'd ridiculed her rifle setup. Now they were learning from it. And that, Wu thought as she watched her students practice, was exactly how it should be.